The Green Bay Packers start out with a show-me stretch, a chance to prove they are NFC contenders, and then with an early bye, it is a sprint to the finish. We are live on YouTube reacting to the Green Bay Packers 2025 schedule.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. We got the leaks, but now we got the full schedule. The real deal when it comes to the Green Bay Packers, what they're going to do in 2025. And we knew it was going to be tough. By team, this was one of the harder schedules in the NFL. The AFC South is going to be tough. The NFC East is going to be tough. And so you know what you're facing in the NFC North. You got to play the Lions twice. You got to play the Vikings twice. You got to play the Bears twice. And so by record projections with Vegas win totals, the Packers had the 23rd easiest schedule in the NFL heading into all of this. And then you just have to look for, okay, are there these brutal stretches? Is there a rest issue anywhere? And so when you look at this schedule, the start is what jumps off the page. And we got those games early. You open the year for the first time since 2018 with the Detroit Lions. And not that you open with the Detroit Lions, you open at home for the first time since 2018 with the Detroit Lions. I missed the critical part of that, which is that it is the first time in the Matt LaFleur era that they are opening at home. It's also the first time Jordan Love is going to play the Detroit Lions in the late afternoon window. It's the first time he's going to play them at home in a non-primetime game. He's only played them at home at night, a Thursday night and a Sunday night. So it is going to be a huge, huge game. The good news for the Packers in that one, by the way, the early line that I saw was Lions -1.5, which is exactly what I predicted on Twitter. I predicted the Packers would be 1.5 point favorites against the Commanders and 1.5 point home underdogs to the Detroit Lions. You get the Lions, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, trying to switch out some disparate pieces. 55-year-old offensive coordinator who's called offense for 1 year in game one. Like, yeah, you don't have tendencies, but is he going to be in the flow? Is he going to be ready for what Jeff Hafley has in store? I think this is actually a nice spot. Yes, you'd like to have Jared Goff in the cold, but Jared Goff has shown he can go to Lambeau Field and not poop the bed. So I'm fine with this spot for the Green Bay Packers. And then you host the Commanders on a Thursday night. You're going to play 2 games in 4 days to start the season. It's a mad dash. And then it's going to be a mad dash to close. The week 5 bye week means you're going to have to play from week 6 through week 18. The good news on that is unless the Bears are awesome, the end of the schedule, it's going to be tough, right? But you have home games sprinkled in there. And I've seen a lot made, like 5 of the last 8 are on the road. You know, going to Chicago is not exactly a hardship for the Packers. Going to Detroit, not exactly a hardship. Going to Minnesota, not exactly a hardship. That was the whole point of divisions, is that it's kind of easy to get to those games. It's not like they've got to go to San Francisco. It's not like they've got to go to Miami. It's not like they're a warm weather team that's got to go play cold weather games. That part is not stressful, though. You got to close home for Minnesota, at Detroit, home for Chicago, at Denver, at Chicago, home for Baltimore, at Minnesota. It's a tough closing stretch. Even if the Vikings are just kind of fine, They're really talented. They're going to be tough to play. You know, they're going to be well coached. You have 2 Vikings games in the span of what? 2, 4, 6, 7 weeks. You've got 2 Bears games in the span of 3 weeks with a trip to Denver in the interim. And you got Baltimore just randomly in week 17. What a weird spot for that. Now, that could be Saturday. That could be Sunday. And that will affect the rest advantage. This is something that we've talked about before. And I dismissed when I first heard Warren Sharp talk about it. The Packers and the Vikings at the end of the season, this is the most meaningful rest advantage in terms of like non-bye. The later in the year, this is the findings from Warren Sharp's research. The later in the year you go, the more meaningful those rest advantages are. Well, the Vikings are playing on Christmas. The Packers, the earliest they can play is the 27th. So you're talking about a 2-day rest advantage at the least for the Vikings. If that Baltimore game ends up on Sunday, a non-zero chance that could be a Sunday night kind of game, then it's a 3-day rest advantage and the Vikings get almost a full mini bye. Those games are more important at the end of the year. And both of the Vikings games are at the end of the year. So you're not getting any sort of, it's JJ McCarthy's first month as an NFL starter. What is he going to be? You don't get that advantage. Now, otherwise, the rest advantage, pretty neutral, right? It's you have the bye coming out with the Bengals at home. That's a nice one. But you are anti-bye. You are reverse bye against the Eagles. And so when you net that out, you hope that you're going to win that game anyway against the Bengals. And that Eagles game was always going to be really tough. Now they get the extra week of preparation in the middle of the year too. You're going to have been playing for the last 6 weeks. That makes it a little tougher. That's going to be a critical game for the Packers. It'd be nice to have to summon something there and not have to do it with a bye week built in there. Now, I went through this and I looked. The Packers, as I mentioned, not favorites to start the season. They're going to play 5 teams, 6 games against teams with shorter odds to win the Super Bowl than Green Bay. Okay. The Lions, the Commanders, the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Bengals. And they play the Lions twice. But all but one of those games, and it's the Lions road game, are at home. So you've got the Bengals at home, the Commanders at home, the Ravens at home, the Lions at home once, the Eagles at home. And you got to go to Detroit the one time. So yes, you're going to play some really good teams. But in order to be a contender, you're going to have to beat really good teams. That's just the nature of this. So we knew that there was going to be a lot of tough teams on the schedule. I don't know that as I look at this, you're going, this is just a murderer's row of games with no real breaks. There's no like 3 road games in a row like we saw recently. There's no like, oh, these 4 out of 5 games are just against absolute, no doubt, nails teams. Like in a weird way, putting the Bears at the end of the season. Sure, by the end of the year, they could be really good. But also they might not be. And they might just be kind of meh. I guess I don't see a scenario barring a huge step forward from Caleb Williams. And that's certainly possible. That the Bears would be a 2024 Vikings kind of team for the Packers. I just think the Packers have enough answers defensively that those games are going to be, or at least enough answers for the Bears defense, and then enough answers on their own defense for Caleb Williams and that group of receivers that I still like that matchup for the Packers as we sit here today. There isn't a game where they don't play the Eagles, Lions, Ravens all in a row. They don't have a stretch like that. And so from that standpoint, it's manageable, but then it's about managing injuries. It's about managing the rest. It's about catching teams at the right times. It's going to be still plenty of matchup based stuff. The Packers I predicted as I went through the schedule that the Packers were going to be favorites in all but the games. Okay, so the 2 Detroit games, they're already home dogs. We'll see if the Steelers sign Aaron Rodgers. I think that they would be road dogs going to Pittsburgh. I think they'd be home dogs to the Eagles and Ravens. And then we'll see on Denver, Chicago, Minnesota. I think Denver's going to get the benefit of the doubt. They were an AFC playoff team. I think the Packers will be road dogs. Now, they could go into that game. We're talking about a game that's late in the season. They could go into that game, week 15 game with 12 wins already. And then they're probably not going to be road underdogs. We'll see about Chicago. We'll see about Minnesota. Like, that's an end of the year game. Who knows what it's going to mean for any of these teams? Those are always tricky to predict. But that's a lot of games. That's 8 games potentially where I'm not like, no doubt they're going to be favored. I think they're better than most of those teams. The only teams with shorter Super Bowl odds on that list are the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Lions, who they have to play twice. So if they just beat everyone who has shorter or longer Super Bowl odds than they have, they win 13 games. I don't think it's going to go like that. Now, I want to talk about the schedule breaks, the opportunities that they might have to get right. We can talk about that coming up next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. As we do this, it's a crucial game in the Eastern Conference playoffs. It's Knicks Celtics. This series is over anyway, but we'll see. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. A killer Nuggets Thunder game last night as we record this with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Plus, you can even combine live prop bets mid-game based on how the action unfolds. $200 in bonus bets right now. Add to the excitement if that first $5 bet hits. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $20 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. So as I look at the schedule, I wanted to find, okay, what are the opportunities here to get a little bit fat? Well, after Lions Commanders, you've got the mini bye into playing at Cleveland, where God knows what the quarterback situation is going to be by week 3. You hope the Packers have at least one win by then. They're going to be favored on the road against Cleveland. I don't know about this Cowboys team. I don't know what to make of them. I like the George Pickens trade for them. I don't think they have enough defensively, and I don't know if they've solved enough of their problems offensively. I think the Packers are a better team. They own that stadium. Matt LaFleur has played really well in that stadium. So that's a nice stretch. Then you get your bye. You're home for Cincinnati. You guys, the Bengals are openly feuding with their best defensive player right now, like their only good defensive player. I don't know if Trey Hendrickson is going to be on this team. And if he's not, the Packers are going to score 40 points at home against that Bengals defense. Like, yes, they have Joe Burrow. They have Jamar Chase. They have T. Higgins. What else do they have? Defensively, the answer is like kind of nothing. So they have shorter Super Bowl odds. That is, I think, a Joe Burrow based thing. But Joe Burrow played really, really well last year, and they could not win enough games to get into the AFC playoffs. In what I think is going to be a tighter, thicker, more difficult AFC, I don't quite see the love there. Then you go to Arizona. October, a beautiful time to go to Phoenix if you're looking for a game to travel to. That's a game that it's going to be tough, but that's a game you feel like you should win. You go to Pittsburgh on a Sunday night, but that team is kind of a mess, frankly. And the fact that they're still waiting on Aaron Rodgers tells you that they know they're kind of a mess, that they need Aaron Rodgers to be in the mix here, or it's like there's a problem. The Packers, whether they're going to be favored on the road there, I would pick them to win that game. And then they're home for Carolina before they have to host the Philadelphia Eagles. But then once they play the Eagles, that's a gold package game, by the way. They go to New York and they're home for Minnesota before they have to play the Lions again. Depending on what the Vikings are, depending on how good JJ McCarthy is, and remember my thing about rookies, most rookies are bad, and most quarterback rookies are very bad. I understand that he's not technically a rookie. He's a rookie. He's never played a real NFL snap. And I understand Jaden Daniels last year was awesome, and they won 12 games and went to the playoffs. If JJ McCarthy is Caleb Williams from last year, this is like a 9-win team, the Vikings. And the Bears fans are ready to anoint Caleb Williams as the second coming of God knows who. They don't have anyone in their history to be the second coming of. He's the first coming. Now we've done something that I don't know we can recover from. And so that's that middle of the schedule, and it starts in week 3. Is a very manageable schedule. It's the start. It's the Lions Commanders game where you have to feel like, of course you'd like to be 2-0, but you have to split that at home. Because you still got Philly at home. You still got Baltimore at home. Like, this home schedule is brutal. The road schedule, like, overall, at Cleveland, at Dallas, at Arizona, at Pittsburgh, at New York, at Lions, at Broncos, at Bears, at Vikings, especially outside of the divisional games, that's not a hard slate of road games. It's the home games, but that's what you want. That's what you want. You want those good teams coming to your crib. You want your crowd. You want the chance to win, to wear your throwbacks. Where do we think the whiteout is going to be? Have we heard about it? If you've heard in the chat yet any whispers about where the whiteout game is going to be. And yes, we have 2 goal package games here that are weeknight games. The Commanders in week 2 and the Eagles in week 10. That's lunacy, but I need people to remember that's not the Packers' call. It's not the Packers' call. Those games are, the gold package games are when the gold package games are. The NFL makes the schedule, the Packers do not. So that's just going to be the deal. Now, I think, I floated this on social, I think they need to do away with the gold package, frankly. And not because I think those people should not have tickets. My family has the gold package. But like my family, I do not, but my family does. And I think technically it's in my name. But I think they should just take it so that eventually everyone is offered the chance to get their full game allotment. The green package, the gold package. And as people fall off of the gold package, you give green package people the opportunity to absorb them. If a green package person comes off, you give the gold package person a chance to absorb them, and you put a window on it, 5 years, 10 years, and you say you have X amount of years to accept the full game package, or you forfeit your seats. Like this is not, it's not tenable to do this. No one else does it like this. But and I think the Milwaukee stuff is way overblown. The complaints about the Milwaukee fans, way overblown. But a Thursday night and a Monday night, it's just so tough. Like, it's the Milwaukee package. A lot of fans are coming from Milwaukee. So you're an hour and a half to 2 hours or more up and back. Like, you on a Thursday, Friday's then like screwed. On a Monday, Tuesday is screwed. At least on a Sunday with Milwaukee, you can go up and come back the same day. And it's a little different. It's a little different. Sunday night, probably still not ideal. But so this is why we have to just do away with the gold package and make it one big package. Pause. So, and look, everyone wants better seats. So the complaining about that can stop. But so the soft part of the schedule, which was the point of this segment, we got a little far afield on that, is the middle. And there's a nice chunk in there depending. Now, we don't, think some teams are going to be better than we think, and some teams are going to be worse. And so it's hard to sit here in mid-May and predict every single piece of minutia that's going to come up in the season. But as we sit here today, that is a very manageable middle of the schedule. And then you close Vikings, Lions, Bears, Broncos, Bears, Ravens, Vikings. That's like all the division games. The Packers play one division game before November 23rd. One. And they backload them. Now that means you get the Bears late in the year at Lambeau. You get the Vikings late in the year at Lambeau. You don't get the Lions, but you do get the Bears and the Vikings late in the year at Lambeau. And you get the Thanksgiving game, which sets up the mini bye for the Bears. So that's a nice little perk that you get. Should we predict? Should we do some predictions? I think we should do some predictions. We'll do some predictions. Let's figure out. I think if I recall correctly, last year I predicted 12-5. I think that's what I predicted. And I frankly, I stand by that. We'll try and figure it out. We'll try and figure it out. Look, you can't hold me to this forever because nobody knows nothing at this point in the game. But it is the case that I think we have a pretty good handle on what these teams are going to be, what they're going to try and do, who is what and when. So let's do it. Let's predict next. Okay. This is tough because the one game that I'm having the most trouble with is, of course, the week 1 game. Home for Detroit. This is a team that has been, and a fan base more than that has been treating you like the little brother the last 2 years. And if you want to go back to the last year of Aaron Rodgers, feel free. They swept the Packers. You know Matt LaFleur is aware of that. You know these players are aware of that. I made the case a couple weeks ago that the Packers' path to winning the NFC lies in continuity. Now, we see week 1 outcomes that are weird all the time. All the time. And then you look back a couple weeks later or 2 months later and you go, what the hell happened there exactly? And the answer is we have no idea. But I am not at all sold that this coaching staff is going to raise the level of this team as much as the last coaching staff did. And I hear from people, oh, but they're so talented. Are they? Are we sure? Or did Ben Johnson do a masterful job getting Amon-Ra St. Brown in great positions to get open? Did he do an awesome job of creating opportunities for Jared Goff to play to his strengths? Just because you are running the same core principles does not mean you are going to be as good designing plays, attacking specific defenses, making adjustments, sequencing plays. It is an art form. How many Mike Holmgren tree guys have failed? How many Mike Shanahan tree guys failed? How many Mike March tree guys over the years? How many Bill Belichick tree guys failed? I am not at all convinced, offensively especially, and this team is going to need to rely on the offense because I'm still not convinced the defense is special with talent. Aiden Hutchinson is special. I don't know that he's ever going to be 100%. The videos are tough. So I think this is the perfect time for the Packers, frankly, to catch the Lions. I'm predicting a dub here. And in fact, we can speed this up because I spent so much time on the Lions. I think the Packers are going to start 4-0 coming out of their bye. 4-0. Because the Commanders on a short week. The Commanders were an overrated team last year. They have shorter odds to win the Super Bowl than the Packers. Shorter odds to win the conference than the Packers. The Packers were a nearly 13-win team by estimated wins. A better offense by all the metrics. A better defense by all the metrics. The Commanders benefited from a very easy schedule. And the only win the Commanders had against a playoff team until the playoffs was against the Eagles when Kenny Pickett was the quarterback for more than half of that game. And it was still a nip tuck. That was like a 37-34 kind of game that they had to win. And then they got snowplowed by the Eagles in the NFC Championship game after an all-time fluky win against the Lions where they got a billion turnovers. The Lions had 1,000 yards of, I think they actually literally had 500 yards of offense in that game and lost because they couldn't stop turning the ball over. That's not the indication of a sustainable formula for the Commanders. I think the Packers were just straight up better last year than the Commanders. By DVOA, they were, and by a considerable margin. So I like the Packers. And then I don't think it's that big of a stretch to say Browns, Cowboys. Now you come out of the bye at home against the Bengals. That's a tough game. I think the Packers are going to be favored in that game. I think they're going to win. Now this is the stretch here at Arizona, at Pittsburgh. If the Packers are now 5-0 going to Arizona, is this where you have a little bit of a slip up? A little bit of a slip up. I don't know. But I know they're going to be favored in Arizona, unless Arizona comes out and does something that seems crazy. I just don't see it. I think we're gonna get to November, and at worst, the Packers are going to be, I think, a one-loss team. November 10th, Philadelphia Eagles, Monday night. Now, I think the Packers have closed the gap with the Eagles, but the Eagles are going to come off a bye, and I think that they're going to win the game against the Packers at Lambeau Field. The other losses on the schedule here, as I look at them, where I think, okay, this team is clearly the better team on the road. There aren't that many. I'm going to give them the Detroit game at home, but you got to take the one on the road. I think Baltimore at home is going to be extremely tough. Extremely tough. And that's a game that I think is going to have massive implications in the AFC. Baltimore is going to want to win that game. I think Baltimore is better than Green Bay. I don't think the Lambeau Field element is going to play into the Packers' favor. If anything, I think it helps Baltimore, frankly, because they're a ground and pound team. I'm going to give that game to Baltimore. So that is three losses at the moment. And then in the at Denver, at Chicago, at Minnesota, I think that's the potential at least for 2 more losses. The division is weird. The Bears played the Packers really tight last year. By that December 20th game at Chicago is definitely one that I have circled. It would not be surprising to me they lose to Detroit. Like they could lose 4 of the last 5 games and have a similar kind of slide going into the postseason. And we're going, what's going on? And then they play well because they're a good team. This is a good team. But the end of the season is going to be tough. As I look at this schedule, the losses that I think are going to be on the schedule are at the end of the year, at Detroit, at Denver, at Chicago, home for Baltimore. I think the Packers are better than Minnesota, even in Minnesota. So 12-5. A very similar prediction to last year. I could see 10 wins. It's a tough schedule. Aaron Rodgers just goes in the way back machine again with Pittsburgh. Jaden Daniels just en fuego against the Packers. Cliff Kingsbury has all sorts of wrinkles. Could happen. But I could also see 13 wins. As I look at the season, the only teams on their schedule where I go, that team is better right now than the Green Bay Packers. It's Baltimore, it's Philly, and it's Detroit. And I think that the Packers have closed the gap with both Philly and Detroit. They played those teams to 1-score games last year. So they absolutely can beat those teams. I'm not going to predict they beat those teams. So that's really only 3 games, 4 games, 3 teams where you go, I think the other team is better. So if you just beat all the teams that you're better than, that's 13 wins. But that's, I wish that's how the NFL works, but it's not. You got to play it. You got to play it. So I look, for the Packers' sake, maybe you hope week 18 doesn't mean anything for you and get some rest, because that week 5 bye. Now I know we play the bye game. Oh, it's really nice to have that late bye. Remember 2022 they had the late bye and it didn't freaking matter. Now I guess it did, because they did almost come all the way back to sneak into the playoffs. All they had to do was beat the Lions, and Aaron Rodgers couldn't do it. The lasting memory of Aaron Rodgers as a Green Bay Packer is a late game interception to lose the chance to go to the playoffs in what ends up being his last season as a Packer against Jared Goff and the Ascendant Lions. It turns into a perfect metaphor for a passing of the torch in this division. Can the Packers grab the torch back? They're going to have the opportunity. They're going to have the opportunity. I think they're better than the Bears. I think they're better than the Broncos. I think they're better than the Vikings. But those are tough games, man. In Denver. And then a week later, you got to go to Chicago, a team that their season is a success if they beat the Packers at Soldier Field. And then you got to come home and for your troubles, you got to play the Ravens. That's the stretch to me. That is the closing stretch. That's tough. That's going to be tough. So you close out, right? Vikings, Lions, Bears, Broncos, Bears, Ravens, Vikings. 7 games. If you go 4-3 in those games, it's going to feel tough because it's going to be the end of the season. But if you go 4-3, like you're a 12-win team, 11 at least. And I think that's where you're going to have to be. I don't think it's going to take 15 wins to win the NFC North again. I don't think it's going to take 15 wins to be the 1 seed in the NFC again. The conference is too good. So if you get to 12 wins, can you be the 2 seed? Could you be fighting for the 1 seed late in the year? Yeah, I think you could. I think the Packers are a good enough team to do that. I think they have guys who can take a step. I think they have rookies who can come in and contribute in ways that help you close that gap. But so do those teams. So then you got to find ways to create even more advantages for yourself. And we'll see if the Packers can do that. All right, back tomorrow. Much more here on Locked On Packers as we get you set. We got a little bit more information on what's going on with Elton Jenkins. It's exactly what I thought. Exactly what I said the other day. Basically, that's what Rob Domofsky is reporting. So it is about the contract. It's not about the positional change. It's, hey, if I'm going to move to center, why don't you compensate me for the potential lost future earnings and let me know, like, hey, you want me to be around? I think that's a reasonable thing to do. We'll see if they actually do it. Follow me on all the social medias, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on all the social medias. Follow the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe, leave a rating, leave a review. Watch us on YouTube where we are live streaming right now. I told you we'd find excuses to be live in the offseason. So go subscribe and come hang with us so you can stay Locked On Packers.